it's the 4th of July. How are you guys celebrating? Is everybody going to be watching Hamilton like me?
No.
On Disney Plus?
I'm having a pool party, a small pool gathering.
Small.
No more than 10 people, and actually I counted today, and yes, it's 9.
Okay, good. So that we
Not
stay
including-
well underneath the North Carolina regulation for
Yes.
amount of people in a space.
And I'm pretty sure chlorine kills everything, right?
Do not
No?
take Michelle's doctor's
Correct.
advice.
I am not a physician, and I do not know what I'm talking about. In that respect, anyway.
Good. I'm glad that you said that, because we're about to start the show, so just so that everybody knows where they stand with
Yes,
the
not a
information
doctor.
that you're going to get.
Account manager only.
Right. Hi everybody, welcome to Compliance Live. I'm Amanda Hosenfeld, and we do not have White Claws here today because this is a recorded show, but we do have our lovely account management team, Jenny Franz. Hi Jenny.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And Michelle Zahowski, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, completely, I don't want to say it's like filming it live, because we didn't practice.
No. It is kind of that way because that's how we roll when we roll live.
I think that's right, and
Off the
it becomes more of an authentic conversation when we do it like this anyway. It's just authentic conversation without White Claw.
Yeah.
So we're going to do another one of those next month. Are you guys game?
Oh, yeah. You know account management's always in for a happy
Drinking
hour.
in the office.
Maybe we'll get that sponsorship we've been waiting for this time.
we've been really watching our emails very closely to see if White Claw
White
calls.
Claw, if you're listening,
It's up.
send us a case.
So let's talk about what we are going to talk about today. And you'll notice if you're watching our video feed all of the papers that are in front of me, and that's 0, because this is really an opportunity to showcase one of our new features here at ComplianceLine, and that is the 2020 Hotline Benchmark Report, which is brand new and special, and we've been putting it all out on social media. Our CEOs have been doing videos on them. We've posted 1,000 things a day about it on our LinkedIn.
It's something that we have had on our radar to do for a while because there is another competitor out there that does a benchmark, an industry compliance benchmark report as well. And we've always kind of wondered and kind of questioned some of the numbers in there because it never really lined with our numbers that we actually saw from our partners.
Right, so it was saying this is what's happening in the industry, but when we were looking at our personal numbers,
It
we're
was-
like,
it was
it's not
different.
really what's happening
And
at
so when we,
ComplianceLine.
so when we, we kind of took a look at that, and when we backed into some of it, I think we found that they were kind of doing some averages of, averages. There was definitely some
Creative math.
creative math that was going on. So we did kind of a pure raw, just look at it, and you'll see in our benchmark report that we did, we classified it as the quote traditional comparison, and then you can see where we're at. So we do a couple different lines on the graphs and stuff, so you can kind of see where it was and had it always been kind of reported, and then what our true findings were.
Got it. So
Yeah.
it's not only comparing what it actually is, but what you have always, if you've gotten a benchmark report from a competitor, you can see what traditionally their information shows and what it actually is.
Yeah.
So before we get into the details of it, I just want to clarify that people that are customers of ComplianceLine can get a copy of this to see where their companies measure in the data,
Yeah,
right?
so two things. One, we can get them a copy of our industry, what we're going to call the industry benchmark report, which is the one that we're speaking of. But then we've always had, I shouldn't say always, we've had it for a while. It kind of went off the radar. We got it back about a year or so ago, where we're doing, I call it the ComplianceLine benchmark report. So where we're actually running a comparison of their company as a ComplianceLine partner against other ComplianceLine partners. So it's almost like an internal compliance.
Okay.
Size and in the same industry.
Right.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
So, but what that does is we can run that report for them, absolutely, and we can then give them, and they'll have their data, and then they'll have their numbers, and then what they can do is they can then take also this industry benchmark report and just kind of see where they fall in there.
And if they're not a ComplianceLine customer or client,
They can still have this hotline benchmark report, absolutely. We want everybody to have it, take a look at it. As I said, there's been some numbers that have been questionable, and I think it's really interesting for them to take a look and see kind of what our findings are versus some of our competitors out there.
And Michelle, this measures hotline intake? Does it measure online reporting? Does it measure compliance office reports?
It really is strictly just kind of like your hotline anonymous reporting.
Okay.
It does not take in the compliance internal.
Yeah, their internal kind of
Got
compliance.
like case management on the internal side, but it does cover online reporting and hotline reporting, regardless of anonymity, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so some of the elements that you look at in a benchmark or what you want to benchmark against are, your average reports per employee, 100 employee, your issue sequence, so that's original call versus follow-up calls.
Okay.
There's some really interesting reasons why behind that. Reporting channel, so how is it coming in, as you just said, hotline, web, etc. And then issue severity level. So was it a category 1? Was it like something that was happening immediately, or is this, more of kind of like request for information?
Right.
Kind of,
Was it burnt toast or
Right.
violence in progress?
Yeah.
Is it where we get calls about both of them?
Yeah, we do. Issues stay open. So how many days has that issue been open before it was fully resolved? Issue validity. So was it substantiated or unsubstantiated? What did they find? And then the issue anonymity. And
Good, you did it.
I did. I said I have an issue with that word. So
We
I said it.
if we practiced nothing else, we sat here for 10 minutes practicing that.
It
Just
is.
that one word.
that
Just
one word.
legitimately just
Yep.
that one.
Your reporter awareness, like how did they learn about the hotline? That is so important as well. And then reporter type, like who's calling in? Is it employees? Is it family members? If you're healthcare, is it patient? Care, is it? So it kind of gives you that breakdown as well. So, but there are definitely some that I think some of our clients like to focus on a little bit more and want to better understand. So some of the calls that we've had after this kind of came out, because we did this push with our clients to say, hey, here's the report. You were on the webinar. Can we let's take a look at it. So there was definitely some ones that they wanted to have a little bit more information on because they felt that those were important for them to truly understand. So I think we should hit on, maybe some of those.
Yeah, so let's take a deeper dive into some of those components. So you just listed all the components that are included in this benchmark report. What do our clients? Which one of these components do our clients most want to see? What's your feedback been in the account management team?
I think issues stay open. So how long are their reports staying open?
Before they're fully resolved.
Right.
So from the first time somebody calls or sends an online report,
To when it's closed and resolved by the organization and a solution or resolution is.
So let me ask you this question: Is resolved by the organization the same thing as the caller or reporter thinks it's resolved, or not necessarily?
No, I don't know. Then those two definitely may not align,
Right.
especially depending on the
Right.
issue.
Right, because again, you have the substantiated or the unsubstantiated, and if there's an issue that they classify as unsubstantiated because they can't find, reasonable
Or evidence.
to
Got
back
it.
it up.
Other than the initial report.
But the reporter they may close it out, but the reporter may not feel that it was, appropriately closed, or that there's still more that they can, take a look at there. So, but I think definitely issue days open. So some of the kind of negative drivers of that, like if you are, so the average is, I want to say, 23 days.
Okay, from initial report.
Correct. So that's the benchmark you want to go against, and you really want to kind of hit within that 30 days and below, right? Because what that kind of tells your team members is that their issue is important, you're getting on it, you're looking into it quickly, and that their issue matters and you want to resolve it for them.
So is industry standard 23 days?
Based on what we're finding, average is 23 days. Other traditional comparison would be up to 45 days.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so there's a pretty significant difference there. Just trying to put myself in the shoes of a reporter, you step out, you go out on a limb to report the issue and possibly risk retaliation and all of the stuff that goes along with that, even if you remain anonymous. And then you're having to wait over a month to sometimes even get an update on the issue. that can be frustrating. That could lead to someone in losing kind of not only faith in their organization, but in that reporting process, and also lead to them feeling like their concerns aren't being taken seriously.
Yeah, it's to your point, it's the difference between I reported an assault as an employee by another employee, and if it's taking you 45 days to close that, it kind of shows that employee how much they care about the fact that you were assaulted on company property.
Yes. I mean, that being a very severe example, we would
Right.
hope an issue like that would be closed in even under the 23-day average that we found. However, this does encompass all issues, all severities.
Right, it's an average,
Yeah.
right? So that's the middle,
Yeah.
essentially.
And
Yeah.
so the other thing is maybe you don't think about with the issues open days is that really that case closure time is also kind of an indicating factor of the health of your intake and case investigation process as well. So if you have a cumbersome case management system or process, or you don't have one that's truly in there, if it takes you longer because you don't have that, that true process in place or whatnot, that it's going to take you longer to do, right? So that's something that if you are benchmarking kind of a little bit higher, you might want to take a step back and kind of see how your intake method is. So it could be poor intake information gathering. So for instance, if you're just having folks call in and, answer 8 questions.
And that's all that they get.
And that's all they get. And they're like static questions. Then you're not going to have all the information you need to really kind of do your investigation. You're going to have to try to dig. You're going to have to try to gather, and if it's anonymous, good luck, because it's really not, you just really don't have that information. So whereas we here at ComplianceLine do that adaptive interview style intake method. So we're gathering all of that actionable kind of pertinent information. And
aren't
telling
just
the
answering
story and
8
not
questions on a
Also,
script.
our intake operators are trained in a specific way to try to pull as much information from the
Well,
caller
yes,
as
they are.
possible.
Thank you.
Thank you to
Yes.
Amanda, who is our lovely
I love it when
trainer.
everybody comes in here and just automatically mentions training. It's my favorite part of doing this podcast.
Yeah,
and the
how to
other-
make you happy.
Yeah, the other thing is, again, just kind of taking a look at your process. So do you have enough people to work your cases, right? Do you have the staff? Do you have the, do you have the ability to do that? And if not, do you, if you don't, then can you outsource those investigations? Can you add more people to the team to kind of help you process that? So those are some real key kind of indicators of that issue open days, that if you're falling outside of kind of the average of the 30 days, you kind of want to look at a few things.
I think that's really important to outline, to your point, that if you're outside of that 23-day window, or that if you're going with the high-level perceived industry standard of 45 days, like, you're looking at all aspects of your process from intake to closing and figuring out where the gaps in it is. It may be the intake, but it also may be the short-staffed. It also may be that, to your point, that your intake system or your case management system is cumbersome and clunky to use, and therefore is not intuitive. So it's finding where you are in this problem and figuring out it. It might be a combination of all of these things. If you're thinking a higher level, you're gonna find more, weak parts in the chain than you are strong
Especially
points.
if that's what you're looking for at that time. Yeah.
Well, and isn't that the point though?
Yeah.
You want to fix it.
It's almost like doing a risk assessment on your kind
yes.
of intake process.
I love risk
like
assessments.
the whole kind of intake/investigation process.
It is, and so that's the importance of the benchmark report, getting your hands on it, looking at it, and then getting your data. I would implore everybody that if your current ComplianceLine client, reach out to us and let us get you that information so you guys see where you're at. And if you're not, we'll still give you our benchmark report to have that data, but then go to your vendor, your current vendor, or your internal resource team and get that information so that you can really and truly understand. And I do want to kind of backtrack and say, I said we said the intake methods. I was incorrect. It's not just the hotline piece of it, the online form. We did benchmark against in office, in person, as well as just The online and the hot.
Okay,
and the
so
hotline.
that's better, right? It gives you a
Yeah, it does.
well-rounded.
It does. So I just wanted. I was looking through this and I did notice that was part of it. So
Okay,
that's
great.
great. That does give the whole picture, right?
All right, so issue days open is something our clients have been asking for.
Yep.
What other part of this benchmark report have clients been clamoring to know?
Issue anonymity is a big one. I did it. I
You
said
did
it
it!
right.
You did it! High five! All right, issue anonymity.
It's a huge critical data point for organizations. What we found is there's around a 50-50 split versus anonymous versus identified reports.
That's what we found.
correct.
What has the industry number been?
Around 59%. So not tremendously higher, but
A
a
little
bit.
bit,
Yeah, a bit. So with this, what this can indicate is, so if you're having a high number of anonymous reports, this could indicate an issue with the health of your organization and the trust in not only the organization, but also perhaps the reporting process.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you have, for instance, an internal reporting process that it's difficult for a lot of organizations to ensure anonymity in those situations.
You did it. You course corrected really fast. You got it.
Yeah. So just real quick story. I actually worked with a partner that we're working on. We're working on a hotline for. And literally they were utilizing a voicemail, like an internal phone number and a voicemail, and it was like an internal HR admin that was taking the voicemails and writing down the information and giving it to the HR teams. It's like, so
It
how
doesn't feel very
comfortable-
secure.
how secure or comfortable do you think like those team members are to actually do that reporting? Oh, Jan's going to hear my issue?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Jan had too many White Claws at the company
right.
Christmas party.
Yeah.
So,
So-
but it also kind of reinforces what we love to talk about because we have such a deep, enriched culture here, right? And we tout culture all the time because it is so important. So, the anonymous calling really is just kind of like setting that, like, if you set that culture correctly, they're going to feel more comfortable. Because what would you fear if you weren't able to do what would you fear if you were wanting to put your name in?
I mean, there's the fear of retaliation. You can be fired. You can be, demoted. Pay cuts. So there's.
You can be ostracized. You
Yeah,
can
exactly.
be blackballed, and
Yep.
you
You
can't
could
be
possibly
promoted.
even be fired.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of types of retaliation. On the opposite end of that, it works the same. With organizations that have a lower rate of anonymous reports, would indicate that there's a lower fear of those kind of things, retaliation within the organization should they report an issue.
If you're willing to give your name, you're willing to put your stamp on it and say, I am not afraid that my company is going to do
I don't believe in this,
retaliatory
and
behavior.
I feel like my company would not agree with this or feel that this
That's
is
a great way to
appropriate
put
as
it.
well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what you're saying when you're identifying yourself in one of these
Yeah,
reports.
and that's what we want, right? Let me phrase that differently. Is that what we want? Is that what the compliance industry wants, is not anonymous reporting?
I think it would make their job easier for the investigation piece when they're investigating an issue, because they'd be able to go back to that person and ask follow-up questions that, for information they may not have gotten in that initial report. And also, I think they would want more identified individuals, because again, that's an indicator of the health of your organization and the health of the culture within your organization. If people feel comfortable identifying themselves with reporting, well then, again, they don't feel, that fear of retaliation as, in some organizations where it would go to an internal voicemail that's answered by Jane in HR that may have too many White Claws at the company party and start talking about issues that she's heard or taking notes on for people or something like that. Extreme example, of course.
Jan at the company Christmas party.
Always the company Christmas party.
It always is.
If your anonymity rate is 60% or even higher than that, you definitely want to take a look at that, I think. It would indicate that there's some trust issues within your organization, whether it be with the reporting process or the actual organization itself, or even with the direct management of, whoever is reporting.
I think this on the benchmark report, this is a really interesting one because it's not necessarily a problem with your intake method. Like the previous one we talked about with issue days open, that could be indicative of the intake method itself, right? Or is the hotline advertised appropriate? Do people know about it? But are the investigations taking long? the anonymity percentage is more culture indicative.
Yeah.
And so that's more of let me look internally and see, hey, why are people afraid to put their names on something? I find that's very interesting that the report itself will give you, questions that will have both internal and compliance related insights.
Companies with a high anonymity rate can also see this be affected in other areas of the organization too. I mean, they might have lower employee engagement, higher turnover, or even just a higher rate of lawsuits against them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I think that's definitely another one that our clients really want to kind of see and understand.
So we have time for one more on our super short sales show today.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is more salesy than we normally are. We
bit,
just,
yeah.
We have the policy on the show of we have the information, we want you to have the information free of
Absolutely.
charge.
We just want to make sure that you realize how important it is to look at your numbers and see where you're benchmarking.
Well, and as they always say, knowledge is power, and we're providing you with knowledge here and resources and actual data points that you can use to compare against your organization's data.
Even if
and
you're
to
not our
see-
client.
Exactly, and to see
And
how you can improve
Yeah,
your compliance
there's-
program and the health of your organization.
If you look at our hotline report, we actually have the way that we laid it out. We have some negative drivers, and then we have some fixes. We have recommendations that we
Oh,
put
in
out
the
there.
report?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's interesting, right? That would say, hey, if you're having this issue or you're finding this issue within your organization.
Here's the possible reasons why.
Right.
And then, oh, by the way, here's how you can fix it. So this report is so, it's laid out amazing. There's just a plethora of information out
There's
there.
graphs and everything.
There is. It's pretty.
All right, so what's our
So I
last?
think the last one that I think our folks, and we've hit on this on so many of our podcasts, is with regards to the report, the number of reports are coming in. So this is actually reports per employee by
per 100
for
employees.
100 employees. So this is basically taking a look at your how many reports that are coming in. So in hotline reporting, more reports are better. So remember how we've said, companies are like, oh, I've had 0 reports, or
Ooh, that's bad.
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
It's not good.
Yeah, I've talked to customers and they're, oh, we hadn't had any reports on our hotline for years. And, I ask, well, how do you feel about that? Well, it must mean that they're reporting it through other methods.
Yeah.
They feel comfortable reporting it through their internal management process.
Yeah.
Honestly, I sometimes
You should
ask
question
people
that.
to really, do you really feel that way? Do you honestly feel that? So, I mean, sometimes people or organization compliance teams need kind of almost like that reality check.
Well, it's almost like, can you compare two pieces of information? So if you're talking to a customer and they're like, we have no reports, well, what does your turnover look like?
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you've got low reports and
Yep.
high turnover, then there's something definitely not right on that.
Exactly.
So the benchmark on our benchmark report is an average of 4 per 100. Just to give you a comparison of what was out there in the industry previously, it was 1.4. So we found that we actually are seeing, in the numbers that we found, not averages of averages, but in the raw kind of information, it should be 4 per 100 that you're kind of hitting on. And, it's counterintuitive, but higher call volumes indicate a healthier employee base, higher engagement, lower fines and lawsuits, and again, we speak of this culture, that stronger speak-up culture. So they are comfortable. They're not fearing retaliation. They have the belief that management does care, so they're going to speak up. And they understand how to get to the hotline. So that awareness is there. And then, and that the process of actually intaking is easy for the employee. Like, it's simple for them to pick up the phone or go to a website and enter in the information. So, that really are, those are some really key items there. So again, in 2019, reports per 100 employees across various company sizes with 10 or more reports showing industry averages between 2 and 10% with an aggregate average of approximately 4, right? So that's what we were saying. So large organizations tend to have higher policy standardization, while smaller ones tend to have higher employee ownership due to smaller cultures. So
Seems like
that's something to kind of think about as well. But really just if you get your information and you look at your benchmark and you take a look and you're like trending below what the benchmark is on those reports, I think that there's definitely some key items that you need to take a look at. You know, the fix is drive that culture of trust, right? Reward those that speak up, right? I think that's really key.
Or even kind of relaunching your compliance hotline and market it in a new way, too.
Yeah,
You
your
can kind of-
awareness.
yeah, basically relaunch it with kind of a whole new marketing campaign with a, like a theme of, you know, trust, kind of. It's just
Yeah, this is
one
for
of the
you.
ways you can try to, not only you're re-promoting the line, you're reminding people about it, and maybe they're like, oh, well, I did see so-and-so do that thing that probably wasn't super ethical, maybe I should call.
Right, absolutely. And this is kind of going back to one of the other things, the issue stay open. Close cases quickly and communicate. If you're showing your team members that their issues are important and they're getting closed and resolved, you're going to have more people that are going to report stuff because they're going to be like, oh,
This got fixed.
it got fixed,
Yeah.
and they care. They
Well, and
truly
also-
want to hear from us.
Also, if we're going to tie in the kind of the anonymity portion to this number of reports
You were
here-
stronger on the front end of the podcast with the anonymity.
Stop it. You make me forget what I'm saying. If we're trying to tying those two together, and again, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm done.
But yeah, those are really the key items that are, I mean, again, they're all important, but those are really some of the, I would say, the meat and potatoes of what you want to kind of look at to kind of take a temperature on the health of your compliance program.
Yeah. So there's lots of more information
Oh, there's
in
a
this
ton,
benchmark
a
report.
ton.
Yeah,
It's a
this is,
40-page report.
Yeah,
We're really proud of it.
We are. We're super proud of it. We're super excited that we got our numbers out there to show everybody that there's another source of industry benchmark for them to take a look at. And again, if you need a copy,
Yeah. How does anybody, client or not client, get a copy of this?
we'll make it simple. Go and email us, account managers here. It's account management.
at ComplianceLine.com.
And even if you're not one of our current clients, which Michelle and I handle our current client base, we will make sure that it is routed to the appropriate teams that can give you that information.
Right. Tell whoever you're speaking to that you heard about it on the podcast.
That's right. And we'll
Because-
send you the webinar, too.
Oh, we do have a webinar.
Yeah, we
tell us
do.
about that. Let's plug that while we're plugging things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did a webinar when we launched the benchmark report, talking about some of the very things that we talked about today, in addition to some other interesting data points and insights that came out of this report. That we'd
so
love to share
our
with everybody.
two awesome co-CEOs, Nick and Gio Gallo, did that webinar, and everybody that had watched it, I got so much feedback from clients of how much great information that was provided. So definitely get that link to the webinar and go out. You can also find it out on our website.
Yep,
If you go to www.complianceline.com, and I think that there is a click down where you can go and take a look and I think there's like a webinar or
There's it's under the resources tab where
yeah.
where you find this podcast.
Yeah,
it will
absolutely.
also be there. If you prefer your information in bite-sized snippets, Nick and Gio did record a series of small videos that go over each point
Yep.
in the benchmark report, and you can find all of those on LinkedIn.
Yep, on our
on
company
our
LinkedIn.
Compliance Line page.
Yep.
Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having
I
us.
know this was like kind of spur of the moment, like, hey, you guys want to stop by and talk about the benchmark report?
Well,
worries.
Michelle and I have been kind of like knee deep in this because we're doing a reach out to all of our current clients to make sure that they have this because it is
And
so
also
important.
seeing how we can use the information in here to improve their current programs.
Yeah.
And how also we can, any changes that can be made internal, within their account as well to improve and see better results.
Right. That's good work you guys are doing, and I'm sure our clients appreciate it. So thanks for being proactive and reaching out to them. And anybody that is hearing this for the first time, please also reach out, account management at ComplianceLine.com, and we will get you the information. We'll get you to the right person. We'll set up some time to chat. Follow us out on our social media. We're on Twitter and YouTube at ComplianceLIVE. I always get them mixed up. And then we are on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook at ComplianceLine, and there you can find tips and tricks and
All kinds of resources and good stuff.
yeah, silly videos and fun videos and posters that we make.
Might see one of our sales guys, Chris Martin's Freestyle Fridays.
Yeah,
on
he
LinkedIn.
dances
Yeah,
on
find him
Friday.
on LinkedIn. You
Please-
need to see Freestyle Friday
Yeah.
with Chris. He's an amazing dancer.
So fun.
It's fun.
I actually forgot, and I just had this conversation with Mark from accounting. I'm legitimately, like, sometimes I do the Mark from accounting bit, and he doesn't actually come into the office to tell me to say this, but he literally was standing right at the door as I was getting the video set up, and he was like, oh, is this the studio? So Mark from accounting stopped by, Scout's Honor, stopped by to remind everybody that this podcast is sponsored by ComplianceLine. So thank you to ComplianceLine for this platform for valuable compliance and ethics related content.
Cool.
Cool. All right. This has been great. Thanks for stopping by. Please come back.
We'll do. We have a happy hour next.
Yeah,
Next
happy
month.
hour next month. White
Actually,
Claws.
it's next month, right? So it'll be
Is it
fun.
August or July?
Well, it's July now, so we didn't have one yet.
How did you guys like the YouTube live streaming?
I was on the other end of it, so
You were here.
Yeah.
So,
I thought it was great.
okay, good. That's what I was looking for. Just positive reinforcement.
That was our
Spit it out.
I'm having a Michelle moment right now, I should say today. If you have not gone and taken a peek at our happy hour podcast,
So fun.
you have to go back and take a look at it. Those are some of our highest viewed podcasts that we have out there because it's interesting information, but we're having fun while we're talking
It's
about
completely off the cuff.
it. It is.
We don't edit anything out.
And we don't rehearse for those really either.
We didn't rehearse for this one.
That's true.
That's true. All right. Well, for Compliance Live, I'm Amanda Hosenfeld.
I'm Jenny Franz.
And Michelle Zahowski.
And stay compliant.
Bye.